Zohran Mamdani is now declaring victory in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary. It's a bit of a shocker, at least for some, maybe not in the past 24 hours, but compared to where people were thinking about this just maybe 72 hours ago, it definitely is. Joining us right now, Edward Skyler. He's the former deputy mayor in the Bloomberg administration. He's the head of enterprise services and public affairs at Citi. It's great to see you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think?
I'm surprised. I'm not shocked. I'm surprised Mamdani won the first round. I'm not surprised with the ultimate result. If you look at the polling over the last 10 days, where these races generally close, Mamdani was closing the gap. And that's why you saw establishment figures like Michael Bloomberg, my old boss, people like Bill Clinton jump into this race because they saw the same thing that we were seeing, that those polls were getting tighter and tighter. What you also saw was a huge enthusiasm gap. With Mamdani's supporters were motivated. Right. He was very clever about how he bypassed the media and spoke directly to them. And he took advantage of the fact that Cuomo ran an essentially incumbent Rose Garden low-risk strategy, which backfired on him.
So we had Kathy Wild sitting in the chair you were in yesterday, and she said the business community is terrified. I mean, describing it almost as a panic attack. And so the question is, what happens next? And what do you think the business community does? What does a former mayor Bloomberg do with his money? He's, of course, been supporting somebody like an Andrew Cuomo.
I don't think you have to look past money here.
Okay.
I mean, the Cuomo PAC raised something like $25 million. He lost in the first round. So I think this is not about what the business community does. This is about what the future of the city is. And there are serious issues facing New York City. New York City, when you look at the numbers, has not fully recovered from COVID. Violent crime is still higher than it was before COVID. Office vacancy rates are still 4 or 5 percentage points ahead of where they were. Our economic recovery has lagged the nations. Our job growth has lagged the nations.
So
and
do you think, though, the public that just voted in this primary is recognizing all of the issues that you're describing and saying this is the candidate that can fix those issues?
No, I think what they did is they listened to him talk about affordability and the struggles lower and middle class New Yorkers have had for years. The same dynamics which also propelled de Blasio into office in 2013. And he was able to talk about those issues. Now, the fact that his solutions may be implausible, hard to implement, or may drive the city further into increase the out-year budget deficits that it already faces, they didn't spend a lot of time focusing on that. But he did tap into people's frustrations, and he was very successful. However, what we've seen the last couple of years with New York City is that people voted with their feet. We've lost about 500,000 New Yorkers since the pandemic, going to places like New York, like Florida and Texas. And the only reason that has ebbed in the last couple of years has been the migrant crisis. So there's serious issues facing New York. And we'll see if the general...
all the things you're saying. My question to you is, if you don't believe that he's the right candidate, yet New Yorkers are coming out in droves for him, who emerges? Does somebody emerge? Do you believe that Mayor Adams has a real role in this? Do you think that a Republican can win in this election? I'm looking at you, Joe Kernan, because maybe he'll run.
Me. I live in New Jersey.
So, so I think Adams, this result has given Adams new life. Can he win? That's going to be hard. Michael Bloomberg won in 2009 as an independent. He won by about 50,000 votes or 4 percentage points. However, he also ran the Republican line. In this case, Curtis Lee was on the Republican line. He got almost 30% of the vote 4 years ago. Adams and he are going to be competing for those same people that support the police, support public safety, want better quality of life. They're going to be competing against each other. The other X factor is, while Andrew Cuomo before was saying that he was going to be in the race in November regardless, it's not clear whether he will or not, and they'll also be competing against each other.
Okay, so if Mamdani is the mayor, explain to us the powers of the mayor, what he can do, what that will mean for the city.
Well, there's some things he's talked about that he can do and some things that he...
No, I just mean the powers of the mayor. We were talking about that earlier. How much control does the mayor have over the city? What things does he control? The purse, the budget? Does he control the police?
The police.
How does that work?
So,
and violent crime's still up. He controls the police.
He will oversee the biggest municipal government, potentially, in the U.S., the largest police force in the U.S., the largest public hospital system in the U.S., and he has a lot of executive authority. If he wants to raise taxes other than the property tax, he's got to go to Albany. If he wants to have free bus service, which he's promised, he's got to go to Albany. So he has a lot of inherent executive authority about running the city on a day-to-day basis. Things like raising taxes or sometimes even getting greater borrowing authority. The city, in a lot of ways, is a creature of the state. However, from a quality of life perspective, the essential day-to-day services that make New York great, clean streets, safe streets, better schools, those are things that he'll have responsibility for. And the largest entity he's ever run has been his campaign. And his legislative record in Albany is pretty thin. And so it's going to be...
5 bills.
So let me ask you a question. What do you think the quote-unquote establishment has missed here? There was actually a fascinating piece in New York Magazine that was published this week. It said that his ascension, effectively, is a indictment of the way the quote-unquote establishment in New York has approached this city and its citizens.
I think that every once in a while the establishment gets surprised. We saw it with AOC beating Joe Crowley, who was in line to be Speaker of the House. But I think if you looked at the underlying trends of this race, it was very clear it was going to be a 2-person race and that race tightened considerably. And the people need, competency is a great quality, and Andrew Cuomo has it in spades. However, it doesn't motivate people to the polls. And the public polls call people and they ask people, who are you going to vote for? But they misjudged the enthusiasm that Mamdani supporters had, and Cuomo just didn't have people that were willing to, leave their houses and residences and go vote for him. And I think that, ability of Mamdani to bypass the media and speak directly to people was really compelling.
But you think he's the next mayor?
If you had to bet today, it's highly likely he'll be the next mayor. And if that's the case, I think we all want to be incredibly successful.
Well, let me ask you a different question. You've heard a lot of companies or business leaders or others say, look, we're all going to leave the city. If taxes go up 2% on millionaires, they're going to leave the city. Do you believe that's true? I
believe it's been happening to some extent.
Right.
If you look at people's views of New York City, quality of life, of public safety, effectiveness of government services, Citizens Budget Commission puts out a residence survey every few years. Those numbers still trail where they were before COVID. As I said before, we've lost New Yorkers to other jurisdictions. One of the reasons is because we're the most heavily taxed city in the country, and they've gone to other jurisdictions where they get treated more favorably from a tax perspective. So people have voted with their feet. The other disturbing piece of public data is 55% of New Yorkers say they won't be in New York City in 5 years.
Wow.
So there's a lot of warning signs that the city that's flashing.
Do you talk to other business leaders to say maybe we should get out of here?
I think people will take a wait and see attitude. I don't think that people are going to be putting their homes in the market, or people are companies will be packing up tomorrow. There's also, we all have to recognize, wherever you are in the political spectrum, left, right, or in the middle, campaigning and campaign promises, things get different when you're in government. Things get different when you're in the seat. So we'll have to see where his campaign promises land once he's actually in City Hall.
Maybe some affordable housing if everyone moves.
Affordable housing is actually one of those issues that every candidate had talked about as an issue. Even Mayor Adams is an incredibly ambitious affordable housing plan, because affordable housing hasn't kept up with the job creation in New York City. So that is one issue that unites him. Unfortunately, the Mamdani plan relies heavily on increasing the city's debt and tax hikes.
So the 55% of New Yorkers who say they don't think they'll be here in 5 years, how does that compare historically? I know that this is how much higher is that than you would normally say?
It's definitely an increase, but it also goes to people's dissatisfaction where the city is, and the fact that, as I said before, the city just hasn't fully recovered from the pandemic. New York City is a great engine, but every engine needs to be tuned. Every engine needs to be calibrated. And what you've seen the last couple of years is with the mayor unfortunately being distracted by scandals and indictments and other issues, that New York just hasn't lived up to its full potential.
The 55%, do you know the demographics on who those people are? Are they people who say they can't afford to live here anymore? Or are they the people who are really wealthy and tired of getting taxed?
The survey was really across, race, ethnicity, and income gap. I think it just speaks to people being less satisfied than they had been. New York has a lot of momentum going into the pandemic, and we've yet to fully recover from it. Yeah. And it'll be the job of the next mayor to really have New York reclaim, its role as the best-run city, as with the highest quality of life, the lowest crime, and the best economic opportunity for people from every walk of life.